part of streaming on YouTube, I guess. All right, fantastic. Today we are going to go into just one parable today, and then lots of discussion, I hope. So everybody turn to Luke chapter 12. When I got up this morning and prayed, we've gone through these each week that we've gone through the parables. I feel like there's been something really good. That stuff about mustard a couple weeks ago, blew my mind, changed the way I thought about that. So I know Jeff can relate to this, and Heather can too, anybody that's done any kind of teaching. We've read through the Bible cover to cover lots of times, and, when you sit down, there's a massive difference between reading and studying, and like reading something, a small passage real slow and just going word for word and seeing what you can get out of it. And I feel like today, I think this is going to be really good. I learned a ton about anxiety, worry, anger, a lot of these negative emotions, and I wasn't going for any of this. It just kind of came to the surface. So I hope you guys get out of this what I did.
You said negative. I just thought that was life.
Yes and amen. And the question is, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
I think is going to determine, negative. Because you can anger and sin not.
Yeah.
There's sometimes it's right to be mad for sure. And speaking of somebody being mad, so Luke chapter 12, we'll start in verse 13. So we're going to do the parable of the rich fool. Jeff, if you don't mind reading, let's go 13 through 21, please.
Okay. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The last of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this, and I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But Yah said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.'"
Thank you, sir. Okay, so 13 starts off with someone in the crowd yelling at him. And it's interesting if you scroll up or flip left, whatever tool you're using for your word, you can see that he's already teaching. And he's talking about blasphemy against the Spirit. He's talking about being brought before rulers in the synagogues and the Spirit giving you all these things to say. He's in deep teaching here. And some random dude in the crowd just straight up rude yells at him, "Hey, tell my brother to give me my stuff." I mean, in the context, this is ridiculous. Like, the Son of God is speaking. Shut your mouth. But this dude just busts out, and it's funny because, we don't know. We tend to read it the way we would say it. "Man, who made me a judge over you?" You don't know how Yeshua responded to that, or if he said, "Man, who made me a judge? Who made me the person that's decided that?" This was not the responsibility of a rabbi. A teacher was not supposed to deal with those kinds of, legal matters. So why is the rich man a fool in the story? What is it that makes him a fool? He's a rich fool, but why is he a fool? He's thinking his life is about material possessions, about goods. This dude is entirely focused on laying up treasure for himself, and he does not value the kingdom of God. He's a rich fool. It is not a sin to be wealthy. Amen?
Amen.
Money is not the root of all evil, right? We've talked about that a couple of times. It's the love of money that is a root of all kinds of evil, according to more modern translations. It isn't a sin to have some money. This guy is a fool who happens to be wealthy. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Pharisee and the tax collector. Remember, two guys walk into a bar, that joke. He repeats the same sin of the Pharisee. When Jeff read it, it says he thinks to himself, what shall I do? And, we all think to ourselves, but in these parables, I think one of the big things we see is that people, the bad guys in the story effectively are looking into themselves for an answer, for their answers to their questions. They're not looking to the Father. They're not trying to do the right thing. The way you read it, it's just kind of funny to me. I will say to myself, soul, what would you like to do? That just comes across really arrogant. And when you read through that, like if you start in verse 18, no, actually 17, he thinks to himself, look at these phrases that he's dropping. What shall I do? I have, I will tear, I will build, I will store, I will say. All of that is in like 3 verses right there. All of this, I will do this, I will do that. Just like that Pharisee we talked about a couple of weeks ago, this guy's focus is entirely on himself. And for this man to be this wealthy, to have barns that are absolutely stocked full of crops, do you think this guy gathered any of that himself? Maybe, we don't know, but the truth is he obviously had a bunch of workers. He had a community. He had people that he could help, that he could give them a raise, this kind of thing. But there's no mention of God, no mention of community, workers, the poor. This dude is 100% self-absorbed. And what is it in his life that is keeping him from having any kind of community?
Because he's so into himself.
Yeah, it's his stuff, his possessions in this case. This guy has essentially made, his choice. He's self-absorbed, but it's his possessions. His stuff is keeping him from a community. And I feel like one of the things that's important in this parable is there's a warning here for people who let life interfere with their relationship with the Father. Everybody has heard somebody else, and if we're honest, we've probably all said it at some point or another. I can't do X because of Y. This man places his hope and his trust in his possessions. It's interesting that he says down in verse 19, you've laid up for yourself ample goods for many years. He thinks he has many years left to relax, eat, drink, and be merry because he's got money. But I bet everybody could name some rich celebrity, or somebody famous who had a lot of money who died young. That's a common thing. It doesn't matter how rich you are. Wealthy people die young all the time. I think this guy, he has an illusion of control. He thinks because he has money, everything is going to be okay. And honestly, is that not a temptation that we've all faced? Because you know what? When you don't have any money, it tends to be the only thing you can think about. Well, if I just had, some money, I could get my car fixed. If I just had money, we wouldn't argue about this stuff. Since he has big barns, his life will be smooth sailing. There is no need for God when you have money. But the truth is, his God cannot save him. Our security cannot be placed in stuff. That seems obvious, but is that something that we probably admit that we have a tendency to worry about? Is stuff, the stuff working. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, let's read 22 through 31.
And he said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, nor about your body, what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens, they neither sow nor reap, they have neither storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? If then you are not able to do as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which is alive in the field today, and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not seek what you are to eat and what you are to drink, nor be worried, for all the nations of the world seek after these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be added to you.
Easy peasy, right? Nothing to it. We talk about people saying the Torah is hard. The 613 in the Old Testament are hard. What is it? It's like 1053 or something like that in the New Testament, I think. And don't worry is probably the hardest commandment. I mean, honestly, that's not those two words are pretty tough. Don't worry, don't be anxious, this kind of thing. So I realized when I read through that how many times that word appears in that passage, how many times the word anxious appears over and over. No trick question, and there's lots of right answers to it. What does anxious mean? What does it mean to be anxious? Shayna, what's it mean?
Stressed, worried, fretful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's opposite of faith. It is absolute fear.
But the only thing too is that you can tell yourself in your mind that you are not stressed, but your body will be doing something totally different at the same time.
Yeah. Yep. Were we talking about, or was it a book I read or something? I feel like we had a conversation about this, about your body remembering things, you can go through something. That's probably part of what PTSD is you may tell yourself, you may will something in your mind, but getting your body to cooperate. So yeah, what else is being anxious? Lots of good synonyms, all correct. Huh? Irrational. Yep.
But the big one is not trusting the Father to take care of you. That you're taking care of yourself. It's like a selfish thing. Like, I've got to do this, and I'm taking care. I have to do this, and being dependent on yourself instead of the Father. So yes, it's the opposite of faith.
Yeah. When you put it like that, at what point does that become a sin? Because what are you doing if you're? I remember a song, my mom loved it years ago. It was a black gospel song, and I think the chorus was just this simple: if you're going to pray, don't worry. And I think the guy would say that 3 times. If you're going to worry, what does it say? If you're going to worry, don't pray. If you're going to pray, don't worry. That's what it said. If you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to pray, don't worry. And if you're going to worry, please don't pray. That was the song. That was it. And how do you think the Father feels in some of our situations when we come to him with our worry and fear? What are we essentially saying about him when we feel that way?
But sometimes prayer can relieve your worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're essentially saying that he doesn't stand by his word.
But also,
Meaning his promises are not yea and amen. His promises are only when it actually happens occasionally.
You say something?
But I think it's James or Peter says, "Cast all your cares on him, for
Yes.
he cares for you." So I did.
Yes.
I tried to do that. Did you say the same thing? I tried to do that this morning, thinking, okay.
Well, I've said that in my prayers.
I have said that.
And moved my arms. I've done this. I cast my cares.
I mean, it's like, you tell God, please, I want to give this to you.
Yeah.
I want you to take this care. I want to not think about it. I don't want to care about it. And then you feel, okay, I'm giving it to him. And then the next day, here you are back again, worrying.
Yeah.
How do you not do that?
But it's an everyday thing.
It's an everyday
To
thing.
rewire that brain.
But If you give it to him.
We'll ever be able to do that with flesh.
I know,
Flesh is not going to allow you to overcome that.
exactly.
You can get to a point where you can trust as much as you possibly can, but you're always going to have that back in your life.
Well, I think we bring
Does
up.
anyone in here, first of all, has anyone in here ever never worried about something? And then giving it to the Father and still not worried about it? Ever in?
I can relate to what Sandra said. I would agree that, and I think what I asked Jeff and the way you two answered, I want to be clear on something that what you describe is exactly what we're supposed to do. What I was asking Jeff is if you take it upon yourself, kind of what Charlene was talking, if you just sit and stew in your worry without going to the Father.
Oh, okay.
That is what I'm talking about. If you do that, to me, that song is true. Well, there's no point in you praying, because if you're going to say, you know what, I can't trust the Father. And Bill, 100% to your point, brother, Paul made that statement that whether it was the thorn in the flesh, that he kept praying over and over, take it from me, take it from me, take it from me. I saw a video that really hit me. It was a YouTube short of a guy, and he was talking about this exact thing, how he was dealing with something, and he kept going to God, and he kept saying, Father, take this from me, take this from me. And it was one of those videos, you'll see the influencers do this where they flip between roles, they just reverse the camera angle or whatever. And he was in this video, he was supposed to be God answering his prayer. And one of the things that he responded to that prayer was, he said, I'm not a thief. I'm not going to take anything from you. And I thought when he said that, I was like, oh man, I have prayed that way for a long time, as in, Jeff, take this from me. Here, take it. Go ahead, take it. I'm saying that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Is I felt like I have prayed that. There's this thing, that's bothering me, whether it's anxiety, worry, fear, doubt, anything negative, and I'm going in there and I'm yelling at God to pry my cold, dead fingers off of this thing that I won't let go. That's a big difference from laying something down or letting it go.
Or casting it.
Or chucking it. Exactly.
It does take time, though. I was talking to a friend about that the other day, and I said sometimes I'll find myself, I keep replaying. It's a mental loop you keep going through.
Yep.
Or like you just keep replaying it, or you keep hashing it out, things you wanted to say differently, things you thought you should have done differently. And lately I've just been trying to stop myself. I'm like, stop it. It's like, I don't sleep. I struggle to sleep. So now I'm just like, don't think. And hopefully I'll fall asleep.
Hey, I've really said that to myself. I can relate to that so strong.
That's why Paul's always talking about, like taking your thoughts captive. Because if you don't, they're going to get away from you. You have to be very mindful of what you're thinking and then take control and be like, no, I'm not going to. And then, like I try to be like, I'm casting this out, or whatever.
Yeah.
But a couple of things came to my mind about what's being talked about. One, I saw this little card one time, and it said, I've heard your prayers. Now get out of the way and let me take care of it.
Okay.
God,
Shut up and move.
it's like, it's kind of like, we give it to him, but then we get in our own way. We are not really giving it over to him. It's like we set it down in front of him, and then we back up, and then it's like, oh, no, never mind. Let me have that back.
Or you're still peeking around the
Yeah.
corner. Have you handled this yet?
Yeah, but it's like we got to get out of our own way and just let him do it instead of trying to tell him how to do it, how to take care of it. It's like we have to get out of the way. We need to let him work and let him do it. And another thing, I know that it's hard to do, and one of the things that I love this little passage. It talks about where Yahushua says to the father, this guy that wants his daughter healed or whatever, do you have faith? Do you believe? And he's like, I have faith. Please help me
believe.
have faith.
Yeah.
Or help me believe, and then I will believe. And I think that's so powerful because sometimes I don't have the faith. So then I'm like, okay, I need to pray. Father, give me the faith or the belief to be able to hand this to you or whatever. And I always found that very powerful where he asked for the belief, like to help him with it.
Same.
I had a thought, sorry, Bill, when Yeshua was praying and he was going to die on the cross, and when he was praying, he asked God, take this from me.
Yeah.
So he did ask him to take it.
Yeah. I thought about that while I was saying it.
I just thought that one just came in my brain.
And I appreciate that because of the humanity of that. And you know, Yeshua said in another place, he prayed something and he said, I thank you, Father, that you hear me. I know you always hear me. I said this for their benefit, so we know that Yeshua prayed for and set that example for us. But the fact that he prayed that, take this cup from me, nevertheless, your will be done. Did he take the cup from him?
No.
He didn't take the cup.
And that's what we have to say too.
Sometimes you also
no?
have to suffer
I thought that was supposed to be yes and amen.
but you
I'm
have
like,
to.
yes, amen, but not yet.
He had to go through with it, but we all know that he didn't want to, because nobody would want to sign up for that kind of suffering. I think those are some things to think about when we pray. That really impacted me. God is not a thief. He's not going to pry something away from you. Everybody in here has either been a manager in some type of leadership on your job or has worked for a micromanager. And micromanagers are the worst. One of the questions that, I say that is my preference anyway. I don't want to be micromanaged. One of the questions that I ask people when I interview them, I've got 4 guys on my team now, and one of the interview questions I ask is, what kind of manager do you want to work for? And give me a scale. There is a completely absent manager who just throws you to the wolves and says, figure it out yourself. And the other end of the spectrum is a micromanager that believes you're an idiot. You can't do anything unless he does it for you. That's the scale. What do you want? Who do you want to work for? And one of the people that I did not hire, I was shocked, said that they liked being micromanaged because they wanted to make sure they did stuff right. And if they were left alone, they might not do it right. And I was like, thank you for your honesty. You ain't cut out for this place, and you're not cut out for my team, because I don't want people like that. And I also don't want to be, I think it's very bad to be a manager to do what?
It should be a happy medium in the middle.
I think that's absolutely the right answer. I mean, I don't want somebody that's going to not set clear expectations and train me, how to do it. But it's almost like when you were saying that, I was thinking about, are we micromanaging the Father when we pray about something? And then, 100% everything Bill said, we all fight worry in this life and in this body. But peeking around the corner, is it done yet? How does that make the Father feel? I'm just thinking about being home with my kids and, it's time for bed, and I feel very safe in the neighborhood that we live in. I lock my door when I go to bed, realizing that anybody can unlock my door with a rock that is freely available, right? Locks are kind of a joke, but they make us feel better. If I go lock the door and then Olive comes behind me and is like, did you lock the door? Did you check the back door? She hasn't done this to me, but that would upset me as, her source of safety. Kid, I got this, is what I would say back to that. Don't come at me that way. That means you don't have faith in me. You don't trust me. And I wonder if we do that to the Father.
I like that because it made me think of a poem that we learned when I was in the service, and it was of Invictus, which is one of the most famous poems that are out there. Henley had tuberculosis from the age of 12, lost his leg by 17, and by 27 he penned this famous poem that, if you're in the military, at least in the Air Force, they wanted you to know it. And the last 2 lines of it says, anxiety issue and worrying and fretting and constantly being that turmoil, are you truly letting him be in captain of your soul and master of your fate? Because, as a man, that's why they taught us that in the military. They want us to say, hey, look, it's good to have a relationship with God, and they very minimize that. Mm-hmm. But you're the one that's out there to take control, take charge. And I will say as a man, that's one of the things that, we are guilty of at the most. I'll never forget a billboard sign that was here in High Point. It said that 3 out of 5 men will die from hard-headedness. Go see your heart doctor, right? So, but how true is it that, we go, that's not that big of a deal, meaning we know that we've got, we think that we've got all this under control, and we don't stop asking for directions a lot of times. Back in the day before you had GPS and all that, it's like, I don't want them thinking I don't know where I'm going, and
Yep.
so there's a whole lot of that mentality that gets in you as being, hey, you got to be a man's man. Or in women, we make the excuse women are emotional anyway, so of course they're going to be full of anxiety and fear. None of that is biblical, meaning God made us both in his image. So what do we got to do? We've got to come into subjection to the word, and coming into subjection to the word is letting go of some of those things that we hold so tightly grip to, right?
Just because he takes the anxiety doesn't mean he takes away the suffering. Because honestly, through even this season, I have found more beauty in the suffering and in the darkness than I have any other period of my life. I mean, it is stressful, don't get me wrong, but I feel like in the darkness is where you find yourself.
Well, you certainly in the darkness, Shani, you should depend on the Father more at that time. You should have more opportunities to get along with him and seek his face. And especially during situations like you're going through, you have a lot of people that have showed you love and kindness for a long time, and at the drop of the hat, they change colors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you realize, were they a chameleon the whole time that
But
we
I'm
were
grateful.
married,
I
or?
am grateful that they showed me who they were.
But the truth of this matter is, and it all boils down to this: we all will be guilty if we're not careful.
Yeah.
Like, I love my kids, and I elevate them to a pretty high level. But at the same token, my kids both will let you know if they're wrong. I'm not going to sit there and try to defend them and where they're wrong.
Right.
I will stand behind them and I'll have their back and I'll get them out of that scenario and situation. But I'm not going to go up there and go, well, Judge, I think they were innocent. If they were found guilty, you can't do that as a parent. At the end of the day,
The suffering
gotta
causes you to depend on him more. If your children were suffering, they're obviously going to lean on their parents more during that time. So without the suffering, you don't ever learn how to depend on him if he just took it all away.
and it is interesting. That's one of the fruits of the Spirit too.
Sure
And
is.
Long suffering. Yeah. Somebody put in I pulled up the chat. They mentioned Peter walking on the water. He took his eyes off Yahusha. Trust in Yahuwah with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I think that is a good typology and example of being in a storm and keeping your eyes on Yeshua. And as long as you're doing that, you're going to be okay. When Peter stepped out, the storm did not stop. He just gave him, the supernatural ability to walk on the water. So I think that's a good analogy, that he doesn't take you out of it. He takes you through it. He's there with you. We see that all throughout Scripture. And I'll bring it back to anxiety. I love looking at the etymology of words. Where did this word come from? What's the root word? Not Greek, but go back to Latin. And anxious comes from the Latin word. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Angere. Anger also comes from the word for anxiety, but I'll say angere. I'm not sure if that's right or not. But it's crazy that anxiety comes from the Latin word angere, and the meaning of the word is to choke. And I think that is pretty powerful. Anxiety is when worry puts pressure on you physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. I've talked about pies since I've learned that from that Marriage Helper YouTube channel. When you're being squeezed, you are not free. When you're anxious, I thought about that. Well, let me not go through that. Those are the four essentially ways that a person can grow or fall back. PIES, physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. Those are the four categories that everybody has. Let's think about anxiety. If it means to choke or to squeeze, what impacts does anxiety have on you physically?
Shortness of breath is one of the.
Literally makes it tough to breathe. Isn't that crazy? I think everybody's experienced that. You've been in a situation, you start like hyperventilating. You can't get enough air, you're anxious. Anything else? Very good.
Stomach.
Huh?
I know when I get anxious, my stomach. all of a sudden it starts hurting, you know.
Get the bubble guts.
Yeah. And then it's like, you know what else happens. So it's like, yeah, that's a big one. It's your stomach. It's like, it's being squeezed and everything's.
Exactly. I mean, hey, it is what it is, but it's wild. Anxiety is like it's choking, squeezing, and I think about. I've heard people talk about a spirit being like an anaconda, snake. You guys know how an anaconda will kill you? It waits for you to breathe out, and then it tightens just a little bit and just keeps doing that, slowly choking you. That's terrifying. That's a horrible way to go. Yeah, so physically, I mean, you can think of how anxiety actually chokes you. All right, what effect does anxiety? Well, another one I thought about is your blood pressure goes up. It's like your arteries and stuff get squeezed. You feel pressure in your chest. You ever had tightening in your chest? It's wild. Anxiety is a snake. It is something that will squeeze you to death. What happens to you intellectually when anxiety is attacking you? Anxiety or worry?
It's like
Yeah,
tunnel
that's
vision.
right.
Huh?
It's like tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. Good. Yeah.
Eyesight gets choked off a little bit.
It
The
makes
ability
it
to see straight, the ability to see clearly.
light.
Or think clearly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't talk when you're anxious.
What?
You can't talk when you're really anxious.
Can't talk?
It's like generally doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you can stutter, stammer, or say dumb stuff.
You know what? The thing that I notice the most though when this happens, you're so self-aware and self-centered at that particular moment that nothing else
Yeah.
matters. Meaning, literally, nothing. You're like, I just got to get out of this situation, and I've got to get out of this feeling. It's all me. Nothing else matters at that particular point. Meaning, if you're having a what do you call them? What do they call the attacks? Panic attacks.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's like something could be happening to your family.
Yeah.
But if you're in the middle of a panic attack,
Fight, flight, or freeze.
it's gone. You're gone. Like what I'm saying is, you just can't react.
Yeah.
You're so self-absorbed. You feel like you're going to die and have a heart attack. You want to get out of it. Whatever it is, I got to break out of it. I got to get out of this.
Right.
And I just think it's wild that it puts you all on you. There's no focus on anything else but you.
Well, the mind just completely shuts down and compartmentalizes because I
Yeah.
had panic attacks after my heart attack, and my mind, the doctor told me, he said, your mind is strong, like you feel fine, but your body, and then every year on the anniversary of my heart attack, even though I wouldn't even remember, my body would start
body
freaking
remembers?
out.
Wow.
Last year was the 4-year anniversary. It was the first year that my body didn't just go into straight panic
Wow.
at the anniversary. But it was because I had worked so much on my mental state and
Yeah.
the emotional trauma from it that's held in the body.
And your
That's
body
real.
remembers things because I've
Yeah.
been reading stuff on. I can't remember. It starts with an S, but it's sympathetic. Like you do these exercises.
Psychosomatic. Yeah.
It's like in your body, and
Mm-hmm.
it remembers, and you have to do these certain exercises. It stores. They say mostly in your
Somatic
lower back
exercises.
and your hips
Mm-hmm.
is where a lot of emotion and trauma is stored. And if you do these exercises and try to release it and everything, because your body remembers, and
Yeah.
like when you start to feel like that instant, like something that's caused the PTSD or a trauma, you're gonna have that trauma response where it's like your body's gonna instantly go back to that, even though maybe it's not even close to being similar, but like all of a sudden you're in that fight or flight mode, you're freezing, and it just goes back to that what happened before and that memory because it's so embedded in your body, not even maybe in your mind, but in your body.
And
It just
nobody
automatically
understands
does
it. Adam used to get mad at me. He would be like, you need to get over it. And I'm like, you know what? I hate to sound mean, but I wish this on you.
That.
They have to be careful what they say.
Yeah.
I don't know if this relates.
Mm.
I don't know if I should say it, but Dr. Dean, some of us go to Dr. Dean, and she has the frequency, and she gives you a report of what the frequency found in your body.
It's just that you hold on to the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one of the things, the frequency was lungs for me, and she said, "Are you having any problem with lungs?" And I said, No, I'm breathing fine. And so the spiritual part or the emotional part of that was not physical. It was emotional. And the word was that you store, something's going to makes me cry. You store grief and sadness in your lungs.
She's got a list of that she was showing me.
Oh.
Yeah, confirming what you just said.
Yeah. Ain't that something?
I did the same thing. That came up in my last.
Did you? And don't that make you sad that you're
did.
holding grief
And
in
it
your
came
lungs?
up on my emotional scan. My lungs did.
It just tore me up when I
Wow.
read that. I thought, blood, my poor lungs are holding grief.
Mine was like that too, and she said that mine was, I can't remember what the organ was, I think mine was appendix or something, and it said I felt like I was being strangled,
I've
like I
got
was
appendix.
over, I was being over responsible and hyper independent kind of thing, and carrying too much on me, and it was coming up. But I got a short list here if you want me to read this off.
Sure, go
now.
ahead.
So it actually, like on one side it says the emotion, on the other side it says the organ that it actually damages. So anger weakens your liver, grief weakens your lungs, worry weakens your stomach and spleen, stress weakens your heart and brain, fear weakens your kidneys, anxiety weakens your heart and lungs, sadness weakens your lungs, liver, and heart. And that's just a short version, but they've got other ones that'll break it down. But yes, there is actual physical damage being done to your organs when you have these severe emotions.
But doesn't everyone seem like a squeeze in every one of those cases? I'm thinking about what you just said about your lungs. And when you get in the fields, what are you going to do? Something sad's going to happen. You're going to do this. You're going to go
Yes.
right there in your chest, where your lungs are. Sorry.
No, that was good. And I was just thinking that the anger and liver thing makes you think of like, and I'm sure you guys can look it up, do your own research on this, but you guys know that like in American, the Indians have a predisposition to become alcoholics, right? American Indians do. Well, they're also known to be.
You almost said engines.
They're also known to be the most violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the association with anger and
gosh.
liver,
Wow.
and then all of a sudden now alcohol and liver and the
Yeah.
destruction of it. So you just wonder how all that plays out spiritually,
Wow,
with
dude.
the body, and now you've got a whole race that associates with proper liver issues and anger
Yeah.
issues.
Well, they
and
inherit these emotions as well. You inherit
Yeah.
everything.
Generational
Yeah.
curses.
Gosh, dude, that's powerful. That's really true. I bet you could do that with a lot of cultures and look at some of the problems that, different people groups have based on cultural things because of all that, that war and anger and everything matches with what you said. And she did not get that list from Dr. Dean, so that's pretty cool to see that from multiple
That's traditional Chinese
Yeah,
sources.
that's a difference.
So,
Yeah, I started studying, like Dr. Dean kind of got me on it, and then I started studying it out and looking more deeper into it. And yeah, there is definitely a lot to it. Another one thinking about lungs is like when you're scared, I know I hold my breath.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just don't breathe. You just, completely hold your breath too. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of different things. And then it can even break it down even further to ailments. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was saying, like when you have anxiety and stress, when it says like your brain, well, it causes headaches.
Yeah.
So then you have other symptoms that go along with it that will still go back to that organ.
Mm-hmm.
You can eat all the good things, but stress and no sleep will tear down the kingdom overnight.
Right, that's exactly
That's
right.
exactly right. Tear down the king. Yeah, that's well said.
Tear it down.
This was a big deal for me going through this, thinking about this. I'm like, man, I'm realizing that this anxiety, this worry, anger, it's kind of interesting. I was looking at some stuff and it made me send a message to Shayna a couple weeks ago. I'm reading this book on, trying to get your attention, I was reading a book about how to be a better listener, how to hear, how to, validate this kind of thing, just wanting to be better at, listening. And I was reading this book and there was a whole chapter on the physical effects of, for people that particularly had a heart attack or some kind of heart episode before, men would be, the thing that would damage their heart most likely after that would be anger and rage. And for a woman, it's fear and anxiety. And I mean, every man in here can attest that, I mentioned this to Charlene, being in this, new big house that I'm in, I am entirely comfortable and safe. I feel no fear, no worry. I'm not nervous walking around. The lights are off in the house. I'm totally comfortable. I have to fight rage and anger. Not getting mad about stuff, thinking about stuff and getting furious. Whether it's work and other people not doing what they're supposed to do, whether it's my personal stuff, all this type of stuff, it's rage. And I'm not an angry guy, but that's what I deal with. I don't. Have you ever fought anger like it's something you just have to deal with?
I've never seen him angry.
Well, I don't feel like it's very rare. Y'all have seen me blow up, but it's very rare in my life that I've ever let that happen. But for a lot of women, fear and anxiety is a constant thing. Being nervous, not feeling safe, this kind of thing. And the thing is, that will cause you to have another heart attack if it's not dealt with. And it's really interesting. Yeshua asked the question, can you, by worrying, can you, by being anxious, add 1 hour to your life, 1 cubit to your stature? Well, not only is the answer no, you can't. The answer is, if you do have anxiety, fear, and you let it run without casting it on the Father, taking it to Him in prayer, then you're going to kill yourself. Not only you're not going to extend your life, you're going to take years off your life.
Doctor said most cancers are related to fear.
Sure. That's what that chapter in the book was saying, is that there have been enough scientific studies done to show that people in the hospital, if they're there for some kind of thing, like I think about Vicky Carpenter and what she's going through, what these studies have found is that when doctors stop being buttholes, and most of them in my experience are buttholes, I'm telling you, doctor, that to their face and ask them if they are one, is walking into a room and just dropping a nuclear bomb of a diagnosis on somebody and then walking out. Or telling me, I remember I got sick one time and the doctor came in and handed me a pamphlet for diabetes and cancer and said, you probably got one or the other, you should read these, and walked out of the room. And I looked at my mom and I lost it and started bawling. And I looked at mom's face and she was furious. Instead of feeling sad or anything, she knew that this was in my very early 20s. She knew that I was adopted and I did not have any diabetic, stuff in my genetics, but I didn't know that. And I knew that my grandma died from it and my dad's dealing with it now, but I don't have those genes. And he just very flippantly dropped the diagnosis and left. Whereas what the treatment that Vicky's getting is they get together in these group support things. They sing songs together. They're worshiping together. They are trying to treat a person emotionally and spiritually and intellectually and physically in all those categories. And it's undeniable that people get out of the hospital quicker. They recover faster. No question. We are not hunks of meat, right? We have hearts, we have minds, you got to treat all of that stuff. So yeah, it shouldn't surprise us at all that there is a strong physical component that matches, tying it to organs. That's easy for me to believe with the things that I've learned.
So as a man thinks, so he is.
That's exactly right. Yep.
I asked Vicki if she'd ever heard of a book about the Great Cure. I said, it's supposed to help cure cancer. And she said, I don't have cancer.
Oh, okay.
I said,
Yeah, they did say you do not claim it.
It's not
She
accepting
said,
it.
she won't speak it
Okay.
out of her mouth. She said,
Now,
I
you
don't-
can
I
still
don't-
do things to improve your health.
Yeah. She said,
Yeah.
But I mean, I
Not
get
just
it.
being in denial. There's
There
a
also
difference.
is such a thing, like I told you, there is such a thing as toxic positivity, and you do
Hmm.
have to accept certain things, and you do have to say, okay, well, now this is what I'm going to do. I know God's going to heal me. I know this, and then you can have that positivity. But I'm finding too, I've tried for years to release. That's why I texted you. I said, how does one release a lifetime of grief and anger in a
Yeah.
weekend? Like, how do I do this in a
Right.
weekend?
Little at a time.
Yeah, and so, but I'm finding now that it doesn't want to just be it doesn't want to be healed or whatever. It wants you to actually address it and deal with it and confront it and sit with it
Mm-hmm.
and be
Right.
okay in the middle of that storm, no matter what it is. Again, having faith in Yah, be okay with it and don't judge yourself for those feelings. Just let them come and then let them pass.
Right. I learned that going through that program I went in, and that stumped me and made me mad for a long time when I read it. So I'm like, this is stupid psychobabble. and all this kind of stuff is what I thought in the beginning. But yeah, I realized I was wrong about a lot of that kind of stuff once I learned better. Somebody online posted this. It's a great verse, Philippians 4:6. Do not worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim. That is the goal, is do not worry at all. But to Bill's point, we're going to worry.
But it also says by petition, as in you got to keep coming back.
Yes, I was to add to that. Yeshua says, "Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." This is a goal. Go ahead, brother.
So I had a hand problem.
Okay. Sound like a dude.
I would go to work as a supervisor, and I'm not thinking I'm mad. It's just treat people that they're not doing their job. Just talk to them about their job. Be lenient and ugly to people. And I had another supervisor come up to me and said, "Why are you so mad?" And it finally hit me. I am mad.
Huh?
Why am I so mad? And I started going to the Father. So every day, I would pray to Him, coming to work and going away from work, to take His hand. Took it. I don't go to work. I don't get mad at work. I don't go to work mad.
That's the difference. Yeah.
I go to work with the intention of treating everybody treat. I'm not perfect at it because I'm not a perfect person. But I guarantee you my life is 10 times better than all. It's taken.
That's awesome.
It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight.
And to go along with that, when I was at the Barbara O'Neill conference, she talked about how, one, you don't claim a disease. You can say, like, I'm healing from this, like, I'm healing from X, Y, or Z. You're not claiming that you are going to be stuck with it for life or blah, blah, blah. And she's even said that, like, if a doctor tries to diagnose you, say, thank you for your opinion.
Right.
Because she knows her body and she knows it's going to heal and everything, and then she's going to heal from that or whatever kind of thing. But she also talks about pathways. Like, if you're angry all the time and then you start doing something new, she said it takes 21 days to start a new pathway in your brain,
I've read that
and
from a
then
lot of
after
sources.
60 days, it becomes complete habit.
Yeah.
But to get to that 21st day, you have to, constantly being aware of it. And then that other old pathway of negative thinking or the worry or everything else, it never goes completely away, but it will be like a less traveled road. You want to make it get overgrown with brush and, like you're not going to go down that way anymore. You want to make this new pathway smooth, and you're going to have the positive thinking. And she said that she was talking about a lady that came to her retreat that had very bad depression. And she was always talking about how she's depressed. She's got depression. She's got this. She's like, no, you don't. Okay. We're going to say no. We're going to say that you're going to heal from these negative thinkings. And then she started getting her on the path of positive thinking and how to, refocus everything and say. And when she left the retreat 2 weeks later, she was not depressed anymore. It was like a whole new mindset.
Wow.
And she had to keep on working. And she, I guess, contacted her later saying that after the 60 days, she doesn't have to continually working on it, and she's had no issues anymore. She's been a more positive person and, healed from this, depression thing.
But she also teaches them how to heal the environment
Yes.
as well.
It's all in
It's
one.
mind, body, and spirit.
Yes,
it's all of it.
That's right. Yeah, and to add what you were saying, you're talking about the toxic positivity. That's different than walking into a room that's on fire and closing your eyes and saying everything's okay. That's a big difference. It's taking steps to change and deal with that. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving this forward. So, anxiety, we talked about this thing is like a snake, like it's going to choke you out. We talked about the physical things, intellectually, Shana mentioned tunnel vision. When you are feeling that anxiety, the fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever, you're not worried about anybody else. I think that's a big deal. You can't focus on your job. You can't focus on deep thinking stuff because that one invasive thought just keeps overriding everything else. and why we have to take thoughts captive. I have actually said, stop, out loud like that to try to shut my brain up at different times when I can't get rid of something, doing whatever I need to do to not let that thing stew. That bleeds right over into your spiritual life. What good are you if you're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze where you're only thinking about yourself? When if I'm this kind of person that's depressed and worried and dealing with all these negative emotions, do you think when I go to my prayer closet that I'm praying about your thing, that I'm thinking about you, or am I entirely focused on myself, me, this kind of thing? I want healthy people, to pray for me that are trusting in the Father, that He's going to take care of them and going to take care of me too. So obviously if you are choking, spiritually because you're so wrapped up in some kind of problem or worry, then that's the truth. You're not going to be of any use to the rest of the body because you're going to be so focused on yourself.
You just function on autopilot.
If you're lucky, if you're able to do that, even, some people.
I can go a full 3 days with no sleep and totally function.
I am not capable of doing that.
I think it's interesting in the parables that the constant focus is on the kingdom, and constant focus is on the treasures of where you're storing yourself. Where your treasure is. There's where your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's interesting that, and I'm with you, Shane. I agree that the toxic positivity, because I even said that last week about when people come in and have had a hell week and they say I'm blessed and highly favored of the Lord. That sounds so
With that accent, he always slides that in. Highly favored.
But we know that's not reality, But at the end of the day, I do like how Dave Ramsey always says, I'm
better than I deserve.
Right?
That's a good one.
And we always can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, we can always say that.
That's right.
And so at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the only way to reprogram the mind and the heart is it has to come out the mouth, right?
Right.
That is a constant, confirmation, affirmation.
Yeah.
And, why do you think the constant focus is on the kingdom?
Mm-hmm.
It's what we can't see. It's what we're to be a part of. It's the building of the kingdom. And so to have the only thing that I see here of canceling out what you're dealing with is that constant focus on who you're going to be, what you're going to be, how you used to be, how you've been redeemed, how you've been changed, how you've been set free, how He brought you out of where you used to be, and now you're like, I just need the mind and the body and emotions to catch up with what your word says.
Wow.
You did have it.
And really, at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's like the spirit man needs to catch up with what the word is professing over me daily. Mm-hmm. And as we're praying, it's like Greg said, when we go into our prayer closet, it can't be what was the one that was all about the me in the parables. It was the Pharisee.
Oh,
it was
that's
all
right.
about the
That's
me.
right.
Right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
And literally the other guy had it right. The only way that he had it right, it was like he was literally, all his focus was on the Father. And, and at the end of the day, this is the only prescription that I see that comes out of this is like, we have to be kingdom minded, kingdom focused. Make sure that we're storing up our treasures where they moth and rust, etc., can't get a hold of. So anyway, it's just my 2 cents.
I want to
Solid.
throw something in there really quick. When you were talking about the words that come out of our mouth, there's something else that Barbara and Neil was talking about, and something that you said a couple of weeks ago about the water. You know how you talk nice to water and it makes these pretty crystals and blah, 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 and if you talk ugly to it and it's not so nice.
Yeah.
She was also talking about our words and what we say. Our body hears that and our cells hear that. What are we filled with? Water. Our cells are filled with water, and our cells can hear that, and if they hear the negativity, then they're not going to function right. They're not going to heal, and they're not going to do their job that they're supposed to be doing. And your body's full of the water, so if you speak positivity and all that, your body's more likely going to heal itself, and you're going to feel better. And so I just wanted to throw that in there too. How powerful our words are.
Yeah, life and death in the tongue,
Because
all
you're
that.
not H2O, you're H3O2. You are structured water, which is far more powerful
I have
than
never
H2O.
heard that.
Yes.
Really?
That's the
Yeah.
Matsahara Morimoto study. I know you were writing it down.
I can't write all that.
Haagen-Dazs. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty. James talks about the one who bridles the tongue. His religion is pure and undefiled, right? If a man, he talks about driving the ship, how small, such a small thing can, turn the whole ship and everything. He talks about our tongue being set on the fire of hell and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's lots and lots of verses that talk about speaking life. I've never connected those two things before, but it makes a ton of sense. All right, let's move this forward. Something I wrote in my notes here. Anxiety is like being in a bind. Anxiety is like a prison where the walls are closing in. You can't do the things you enjoy because it feels like you're in an invisible cage. Mental looping. I thought about that this morning. You mentioned that earlier. Mental looping of what ifs when no one knows the answer. It's non-productive thinking. And then, of course, he asked the question about being able to add hours to your life by being anxious. It's really interesting. The word anxious, I talked about that it comes from the word angir, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But if you use your concordance, this is a fun thing to do. Pick any word in your concordance in the Strong's, and it will say this word is from this word. And a lot of times, if you're doing it electronically, it'll be the word immediately before it. It's kind of like worrying is from worry, that type of thing, but you can trace it back. And if you keep following anxiety back in the Greek, it goes to the word meris, meris, which means to tear apart or pull something into pieces. So that's another root of anxiety. So Yeshua is asking the question, can you extend your life by tearing yourself apart? Scientifically, I've learned that men tend to struggle with anger as the chief negative emotion that leads to an early death. Anger increases the chance of heart attack. In women, it's anxiety and fear. And those physiological effects are easy to look up. We've already talked about that. So anxiety and worry don't add an hour to your life, but they can take years off. Now, this is wild. Look at verse 29. Do not seek what you are to eat and what you are to drink, nor be worried. If anybody has... I love it. You got, so many of y'all have your paper Bibles. This is cool. Double tap on your word in that paper Bible and tell me what it means. So the Greek word for worry is meteorizo, which sounds like what? Meteorite. And I read that this morning, and it even says in the Strong's, it's compare the word meteor. To raise in midair, to be suspended in the air. This blew my mind. So the word for worry is more or less, it's meteorite. And Jeff can probably relate to this. Us guys that like these action, into the world kind of movies. I've seen so many movies and played so many games where it's the end of the world and a meteor is going to crash into the earth and kill us all. And I mean, there's plenty. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. That's in Scripture. So you have these movies where, the Earth is going to be wiped out by a meteor, and it will show up toward the end of the movie, where they figure out they can drill holes in it, put nukes in it, and save the day, or whatever the solution is. But there's always you can see it in the sky, and that hit me this morning. That is how a worried person lives their life. Is they walk outside, and instead of seeing blue skies smiling at me, they see a meteor. They see impending doom everywhere they look. I mean, in all these movies, it's like the sky will turn orange or whatever, or a reddish tint, because there's this constant concern that this meteor is going to come and hit me. And I really think that metaphor works really well for me. Is imagine how you would live your life differently if you walked outside and you knew the government was lying to you, because the government always lies about everything, about how much time you have left. This meteor, I can see it in the sky. Are you going to, go to the park, take your kids to the park and have a good time? You should. That's what you should do. You should go hang out with your family. But you're going to be some people are going to be so paralyzed by fear and concern that they're not going to be able to do anything. It's going to be that fight, flight, or freeze, in an endless state. So how about that? The word for worry in the Greek is essentially meteor. That something is going to hit me. Something's going to take me out. That's one way to look at it. The other, if you look at the word, it'll say it's from this word, and it means to be up and suspended in the air. So this is a different spin on it. Worry, if you're worried, you're up in the air. If you're up in the air, what are you not? You're not grounded. You're not rooted. You're not stable. You're not safe. You're not secure.
To and fro.
You can't help it if you're in that state because you got nothing to anchor you. So you're being blown about. And that is what it is like to be in a state of anxiety or worry. Is the news can hit you and you got nothing to brace yourself with. It's just going to blow you one way or the other.
That's really interesting. That was my childhood. I had an irrational fear of thunderstorms until I was 12 years old. Irrational.
Okay.
I spent every summer day at a window or outside waiting for the cloud.
Oh, yeah.
And when the cloud came, I went and got under a blanket and cried until the storm was over. My mom would always try to send me to my room if it was night or whatever, and I wouldn't go. And she was like, "You defied me," and wouldn't do that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, you felt the impending doom or whatever.
Yeah.
So I bet that was that way about Walmart. Yeah.
I feel that way about Walmart now.
Like Walmart is impending doom.
Freak out. Absolutely freak out. I think
And
They-
you,
I was not there one time, and a homeless guy approached them, and they were just getting out of the car, and it turned them for a loop. She was real young, and from that moment forward, for a long time, she didn't want to go anywhere, literally at night. Walmart was, I use that as the primary because it was often that we
The
were
catalyst.
trying to go to Walmart, and she was like, she don't want no part of it.
Don't go to Walmart. They don't hang out at Whole Foods. I'm just saying.
you are not wrong. And that's fear, worry, anxiety is, to you, 11-year-old Heather, there is nothing that anybody could have said, right? There's no ration to it. There's no rational thing. There's no logic. You can't explain that. Man, yeah, that's very interesting that you had that experience. And that really is what it's like to be sort of in that state or worry.
Did you ever get struck by lightning? No.
But how much time did you lose from the worrying and you didn't get to enjoy life because you were so in fear?
Till I was 12.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, so how much time did you lose that you could have been playing or enjoying life?
It sounds like most of the summer.
I think that to myself even to
Yeah.
this day. It's like when I get worried about something, it's like, what did I gain out of it? I just lost, these different things that I could have been doing
Yeah.
or spending time with my grandson or doing this, and I'm like so worried about something else and not enjoying the moment. But I also like what you said about not being grounded. If we're grounded in the Father and we have the roots, we're like a tree.
Yeah.
That means storms can blow over us and we're just going to sway in the storm because our roots are deep and we can handle it. He's got us. If we're rooted in the Word and rooted in Him, and if we're to and fro and blowing everywhere, who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
So it's
Right.
worry's just making things worse.
Or if in that moment you would have been held, what kind of difference would that have made for you?
Yeah.
Joshua 1:1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that verse is on the wall. Yeah, go ahead.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Probably.
Have I not commanded you, be strong, courageous, do not be afraid, nor be discouraged. I, Elohim, is with you wherever you go. Send you.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was when I stayed with my mom and dad. They had that on the wall. When I would lay down, I'd see that on the wall every night. Yeah, it's a good verse. That's really good. Yeah, what you said about, I'm learning a lot about that with the whole validation and everything. I think about, imagine the meteor situation. I'm going to think about that from now on. I believe when I hear about worry, I'm going to think about a disaster movie and that being in the sky. Now, we obviously believe in Bible prophecy, and we know that's not how things are going to play out. That's not how the world's going to end or anything. But just hypothetically, put yourself in that situation and imagine what would be going on in the world for people that don't believe in God, or people that don't have any kind of moral compass. There would be looting, there'd be riots, there'd be murder, the world would absolutely fall apart real, real fast because they have no anchor, no hope, nothing to hold on to. In verse 28, I looked this up today because I've always wondered what this meant and didn't understand it. And if anybody else does, I'll be impressed. So God so clothes the grass, which is alive in the field today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven. How much more will he clothe you of little faith? What is that talking about? The grass being thrown into the oven. Does anybody know what that means?
Burning up by the sun.
That's what I thought.
Which son?
Of
S-O-N or S-U-N?
S-O-N. No, S-U-N.
Yeah. Well, I believe the latter.
Because it's that the Psalms, it's not Psalm 90.
But is it also not cut too?
Huh?
So what
Go ahead.
about
I'm going to let you
the
finish your
tears?
thought.
What about the tears? They're being cut.
It's cut.
from
All two are
lanes.
Mm.
She was like, just saying.
That's why I believe it's S-O-N,
We just
not S-U-N.
So if you relate it to the wheat and the tares, that certainly works, Sandra.
I always think of that as for, I don't know why, of wheat, and you're making bread and putting it in the oven. That's just what I've always felt.
That's totally rational. Anybody else?
Well, it's my understanding is because in Psalms 99 it talks about the grass grows and withers in the sun. It's talking about your lifespan.
Yeah. Yes.
So this to me is referring to your lifespan. Your life is not worth the worry
Yeah.
to be concerned about that. Because
Mm-hmm.
the lilies in the field grow.
Yeah.
That's in the field grow, but it's burned up by the sun.
Yeah.
Then everybody's garden is burned up by the sun.
They don't
Yes,
get
you
watered.
Yeah.
Living waters.
Yeah, that's good. I think that is totally correct. It turns out that in everybody's home, they had these little clay ovens, little small ovens that they would cook with, and kindling wood was hard to come by. So what they would do is go outside and grab the grass that has dried up, and they would use that for kindling. Rather than going out and getting twigs and stuff, they would just go grab grass from the field and throw that in the oven to start their fire. It was a very practical thing, but it is entirely in line with everything that you just said. That's the analogy, is nobody seeded those beautiful lilies in the field. Nobody is working that field, and yet you walk out and see a wild field of flowers and it's beautiful. And nobody did that. That's God. But if he's making that beautiful and that's out there wild, and the sparrows and all of the other things that he tells us that are obvious to understand, if he's going to make something wild that tomorrow it's going to be cut down and thrown into the oven to start a fire so somebody can cook something, if he's going to be concerned about making that beautiful, then at the end of the day our lives are going to be beautiful. The things are going to work out in the kingdom for sure. And that's the thing, is to keep our focus on that. There are promises in this life for blessings too. We don't have to be expecting a miserable life, but it's going to be right in the kingdom. That's not how he wants us to live either.
No, I'm still professing Deuteronomy 28 over my family and over all of you guys. Now, the first half of it, by the way,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, dispensationalism is nonsense. And so anybody that thinks that you can't walk in, healthy and good health and et cetera. Now, listen, there's trials, there's battles, there's circumstances, all of those happen. There's things that we put ourselves in the middle of because of what we eat and what we do, et cetera. But, there's the Job scenario that nobody's ever going to be able to, convince me that, there's times that you're going to go through a test, and it is from the Father, that it allows it from, Satan.
The
So-
ones he loves.
But even Job said, even though he has tried me, I will come forth as pure gold.
As pure gold.
Like that.
Pure gold.
Also, if your life is always perfect, you'd never know that it was. I mean, you have to have the bad things to happen to appreciate the good. And if you always have good, then
Yeah.
you don't appreciate it. You're not thankful for it.
Well, yeah, Jeff already nailed it earlier when he mentioned the fruit of the Spirit that none of us, want to talk about, is the long-suffering aspect of it. You can't build any muscle without resistance. You have to have something pushing against you to push back against.
I
So
mean, I'm long suffering watching everybody eat pizza. Okay,
heard that.
I'm doing it.
I have a testimony. This is fun. It's related to what we're talking about here. So something on the positive side, it's always cool when God does something neat that kind of stands out. I think y'all get a laugh out of this and be encouraged by it. So I know Shana did something similar. I bought myself a nice projector for home, and I got a 4K triple laser, pretty high end. It's legit. And one of the things that it can do is 3D. So if you have the 3D glasses, you can watch 3D on it. And I remember when I was a kid, my parents would take me to Myrtle Beach. We'd go to Broadway at the beach, and there was the IMAX theater there at Broadway at the beach. I didn't care about cotton candy or soda. My kids just want something that's going to rot their teeth, and that will make them happy. I didn't want candy. I wanted to go to the IMAX, and I wanted to watch manatees on that 6,000 foot screen. I wanted to see lions in the wilderness and safaris and all this kind of stuff. Dude, I'm going back to the 80s here. You wanted to go to the IMAX and take, 2 adults and 2 children and buy popcorn? That's $100. The IMAX is like $30 a person now for a 25-minute video. So as an adult, I'm very appreciative now that my parents would take me sometimes. But if it was up to me, just like me going through the checkout line in the grocery store, Olive is like, can I have Skittles? Can I have M&Ms? Can I have, never stopping. So I would go every day, but I couldn't, they could not afford that, nor should they have afforded that. So yesterday, I was done with work, and I was thinking about the things that I needed to get done, going through the prioritization of my tasks and all this. And I'm like, you know what? I've had a really good week. I've been productive. I got this nice new toy. I don't get to play with all these toys that I have now. And I didn't have the kids with me. So I said, you know what? I started thinking about that projector shooting on the wall, and it reminded me of being a kid and not getting to go to the IMAX as much as I want. And I thought about there's this store, I think it's called McKay's, and it's over near the mall, and they sell used books and games, like a bunch of retro stuff. Cool, so you guys know of it. Well, I went to that store. I went to that store once, and I'm not trying to be negative or whatever. I went there. I wasn't alone, and all I'm hearing is the people here stink and they're weird, and I don't want to be here. So I did the honorable thing. If you don't want to be here, let's leave. So I remember thinking, dang, that looks like a really cool place. But we left, and I hadn't been back. And that was years ago probably. And I thought that place probably has some DVDs for cheap. So I get online and I'm looking, and IMAX movies are like $30 or $40. And I'm like, oh God, I want some, but not that bad. Anyway, I really felt, Greg, you're free. Go. And I was like, all right, man. I set my stuff out for dinner. I cooked a prime rib. I cut up an onion. I had a box of mushrooms, butter, soy sauce, olive oil. I had campai that I made, and it was phenomenal. I had a great dinner. And I'm like, I got my stuff set out. I'm going to McKay's, man. I walk in, and I'm like, I am a nerd, and I really belong here. That's what I thought. I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay. So I found the Blu-ray section, and I'm like, I want to find a 3D movie. So I'm going through this, and I'm just looking, and I don't know, I was there for a while. And I found like one movie. I'm like, dang, man, I've been here for 30 minutes. I hadn't found anything else. And I get ready to go, and I walk around the corner, and there's a new arrivals section. And new arrivals is somebody dumped their stuff, and they haven't figured out where to put it yet. And I'm going through, and I'm looking at the bottom, just looking for 3D. And I found one, and I found one, and I'll show you what it is in a minute because it's right here. And I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's 3D. And I look next to it, and it's 3D, 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 3D. Somebody came in and unloaded their entire library.
Wow.
I got 14 videos, 95 cents.
Did you get the manatee?
Whoa.
And the one that I grab is, some of y'all know from my childhood, I was always Monkey Boy. I was always Monkey. And this is the first thing I pick up, and I could have cried in the store. I pick it up, and it says, it's got a monkey, and it says, born to be loved, born to be free. And I had just heard, that in my head is like, you're free. Go do something, I'm sorry. Go do something that you're going to enjoy. That was a gift from heaven. I went home with my 14 IMAX videos. I didn't watch one. I just set him down and just thank God that that he did that for me. And that is a beautiful example of God knowing the desires of your heart. So yeah, when we have movie night tonight, the kids are going to get to see elephants and manatees and whales and all this. That's nuts. These are $40 at the store, and I got a massive stack of them. So praise the Lord. I had to share that. I was just that was really cool that worked out the way it did.
That's all.
There's a new one in Bevan.
Okay.
That's
Big one.
Yeah.
very nice. Well, I've got to check that one out.
I didn't even have a Blu-ray player. I looked them up. I don't have physical media anymore. Who has that? And they're like $300 for the 3D ones.
Forever.
Huh?
You keep them forever.
Well, I'm glad somebody didn't, but it wasn't labeled, and yet there was this massive chunk of all 3D movies in the new arrival section. I'm just like, bloop, bloop, bloop,
See,
bloop,
I
bloop.
buy everything I want, so it's in my sanctuary at home, and I never have to leave my house.
My sanctuary. I like it. I got a high-end Sony Blu-ray player still in the box. It looked like it was brand new. It was $50. So I walked out of there for $100 with like a happy camper.
What is really great is like when you get a whole bunch of stuff that you don't want anymore or whatever, you take it and you get credit for it, so then
Yeah.
you can. I still have credit there. I got like $30 worth of credit.
So I didn't even know if y'all had ever heard of that place. So
My kids
We've
love
been
that
frequent flyers for
They did
30 years.
whoa, they've been around for a while.
Oh, McKay's in Greensboro, by the way, on Battleground, has been there
I
forever.
thought it was a recent
They
thing.
had a small store in
I have
Winston
never
for
been.
years and years.
Sweepstakes
Yeah.
thing where if you hit every store within 24 hours, you got like 10 grand.
How many doors?
There's one in
There's
Knoxville.
one in Austin.
We've been in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Oh, trust me, we're McKay's frequent flyers. So.
I almost
All right.
got 2 friends.
My
Do you have to
people.
walk
I never had any doubt.
Out and go to the next one.
I've never been there.
Whenever you're ready.
you
Y'all can come to the house. I got 3D glasses. We'll watch Born to Be Wild together.
Actually, I'm going Tuesday because Anne Marie's birthday was, last weekend. I told
Yeah.
her, I said, whatever you want to do for your birthday. And she wanted to go to Ed McKay's.
How about
and go
that?
shopping. I was
I've
like,
never
okay, we're
been.
going.
Wow.
I feel left out.
Well,
I've never been.
I've never been.
they have a lot of cool like 80s retro toys and stuff too. I was like, ooh,
You know what I want?
like all the
I want
things.
a Game Boy. I want an
They definitely have Game Boys there. All right. Sorry.
Okay, keep it
I had to share that. It was just too good to share. But 1 Corinthians 15:58. You don't have to flip there if you're making notes. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. So this is the opposite of worry. This is the opposite of meteor. And being up in the air, he says, be steadfast, be immovable. Ephesians 3:14 through 19 says, for this reason I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, that according to the riches of his glory he may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, and that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Psalms 62, verse 2, he alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, I shall not be greatly shaken. Now this is kind of neat. This is Psalm 62. So verse 2 and verse 6 are almost the same, but a little bit different. So I think about assuming David wrote this. I'm not sure if he did. But I'll read verse 2 and then verse 6. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be greatly shaken. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. So it's as if when he's telling this story, he's like, no, I'm not going to be greatly shaken. I'm not going to be shaken, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
So Yeshua described John the Baptist by asking people who met him if they thought he was going to be a reed shaken by the wind. Well, that was an idiom that meant someone who was unstable, no backbone, someone who's fickle. That's obvious to us reading that. But John was not that. John was not afraid to go after Herod. He told the king to repent. John was no reed. He was an oak. I thought about that when you mentioned that earlier. It's interesting that the word wind, this hit me this morning when I was looking at this. He got it. He was not a reed shaken by the wind. What's the word for wind? Yeah, it's ruach in Hebrew. It's pneuma in the Greek, and it's the same word for wind and spirit. John was no reed, he was an oak. It's interesting that wind in Greek is pneuma, which is the same as spirit. There are all kinds of pressures in the world. Think of all the things that try to blow us off our stand. I'm not one to over spiritualize things, but what if there are winds behind some of the pressures? I can't make it to Shabbat because of X. Where did X come from? Who is behind X? John didn't cave, it cost him his life. Yeshua said he was the greatest man. We all know that, right? Among those born among women, there's none greater than John the Baptist. He did not wear soft clothes and live in a palace, but he was strong. And I thought about that and thought about John being an oak tree. There are other trees, you could probably speak to this better than anybody with your knowledge of wood, but there are trees that are perfectly straight. You know, you go out in the forest, those are cool to look at. Some of them are engineered, from what I understand, hybridized or whatever, to make them perfect for wood. But an oak tree is not perfectly straight. An oak tree spreads way out, and it has roots that go all over the place. And an oak tree in a storm, it's going to sway around, but it is not going to fall over. Oak trees are not the ones that you're going to find, you know, toppled or whatever. Is that true in your
No,
experience of
straight
knowledge of
on.
wood?
And then it made me think when you said that about John being an oak.
Yeah.
I was thinking, man, he took Psalms 1 literally.
Oh, like a tree.
Yeah.
Planted by the water. I
Planted
shall
by
not
the
be
waters.
moved.
Shall not be moved. I
Very
mean, he
good.
like, I'm staying by the water. I'm not going to be moved. They had to come to me if they want to hear the gospel, and God sent them to him. And I thought that was amazing.
That's a good
Yeah.
connection, bro.
I was thinking this, I can't remember what song it was, but I knew something about a tree next to the water.
Yeah.
And then he was in the water all the time, just baptizing everybody.
Golly, that's good.
That's right.
That is good. John was a tree by the water.
Yeah.
I love that. That's very different from a reed shaking in the wind.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's 4:40. Heather's leaving at 5, with or without us. So we're going to see if we can squeeze another point. We're going to try to squeeze one more point in.
Psalm 62 was written.
Oh, what does it say?
It was written by David.
Say again?
It was written by David.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you for confirming. I love it. All right. Let's go to, so this is a totally different point, but it is somewhat related, and I'd love to fit this in. Let's go to Luke 10. This is what I was referring to earlier as saying this might grind a little bit. You know, this has all been happy-go-lucky so far, but this is good. Luke 10, 38 through 42. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind reading.
Now, as they went on their way, Yeshua entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at Yeshua's feet and listened to his teaching. Martha was distracted with much serving. She went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha. Hey, I've heard that before.
Marcia.
You are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her.
Oh, and let all the worrying women say amen, right?
She didn't do it, who would have done it?
I jumped here because I thought about anxiety. It's mentioned so many times through there, and I thought Martha had anxiety, and I had to search for the verse to find it. Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. A couple things hit me when I was reading this short passage. This isn't a parable, but it might as well be. Martha had a clean house, because I know I've heard from my ex-wife, my mother, and I'm sure Sandra has said it too. Any woman in my life has, company. Somebody's coming over. Oh, they can't come over. The house is a wreck. Right? The house is a mess. Or if they are coming, you're losing your mind and cleaning the house as fast as possible. Look at this. As they went on their way, Yeshua entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. That tells me,
She was ready.
huh?
She didn't know they were coming.
Right? Martha ran a tight ship. Martha's house was spick and span. Martha had things under control to the point that somebody walking by could randomly be invited into the house, no problem. There's no mention of Martha being married and not having any kids, which is the only reason she was able to pull this off.
That's why her
probably
health
why.
claim. Too, I'm learning that it's not like, make sure too that the saying, if I didn't worry about it, then nobody else would do it and get it done. I'm learning, I'm gonna need a man that's gonna worry about it too, because that way I don't have to worry about it all myself, and then I can let go a little bit. So,
Amen.
you know,
That's exactly right. You're not supposed to be the only one worried about that. She was distracted, verse 40 says. Distracted with much serving. The word serving there means ministry. If you look it up, it means ministry. She was so busy making sure her house was perfect that she was missing the Lord of glory. And although she obviously had a lot of control to keep her house pristine, Yeshua said she was anxious and troubled. Just looking up the word troubled there, it basically means to be in a loud storm. She was surrounded by noises and distractions. Things were constantly pulling on her in all directions to do all of the things. Anybody ever felt that? I listened to an audiobook by Allison Armstrong called Understanding Women. There's a book out there apparently you can listen
really
to.
trying.
Yep.
Really trying.
Have you got through it yet?
It's not that long, surprisingly.
I thought that would have taken you months.
Exactly.
It's really not that
Years and years.
This is interesting. I'm wondering if y'all can relate to this. It was really good. I gave it to Aaron. He's gone through it also. One of the things that stood out to me is how Allison said her house speaks to her. She said that when she walks through the living room, the curtains tell her how dusty they are, and the pillows tell her they need to be fluffed. You ever experienced that, ladies?
Yes. My mom used to always tell me that you can tell how clean someone is by their baseboards.
Yep.
And
Oh, yeah,
every time
baseboards.
I walk into someone's house, I'm double checking your
Yep,
baseboard.
glancing at
You
the
know what mine
baseboards.
is the toilet paper holder in a big white shop. You know, like all the lint and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
The paper, see if that's got like build up big time on it. That's another one to check.
I watched a short. This was like a TikTok or a YouTube short. It was a clip of a woman brushing her teeth, and it's that voice, you've all heard it, that is used for all those videos. I have clothes in the washing machine. Is the water running in the sink? What was I doing? And she's standing there brushing her teeth, and all these voices, and they're talking over top of her, and she's like, oh my gosh, I left the, and it's that cute voice, the AI voice. I left the water running in the sink for the dishes. So she turns and walks out of frame, and then another voice says, but the clothes are going to get wrinkled in the dryer. So then she turns and walks toward the dryer, and she like can't move. She just paralyzed, and she goes in this circle, and then she starts gagging because she needs to spit the toothpaste, and comes back, and she finally spits, and then she's like, what was I doing? It's the voice, and that was the end of the video.
Right now.
Huh?
30 tabs are open.
30 tabs are open. I've heard that.
I'm so glad you said that because he thinks I'm just not focused. That I can go from one thing to another to another.
We don't finish any of it. All us men are sitting in our nothing box. So.
Right, exactly. That's in there. It talks about
We need to move some stuff from our general tab into your general tab, and you
What
take
is
care of it
the,
and just get it done.
Right. Exactly.
the phrase that Allison uses. The scientific term for it is diffuse aware, and diffuse means to be able to pour in many directions at the same time. Women are multi-threaded. Men are, I guess a gun analogy would be women are shotguns and men are sniper rifles. We can do one thing really well, but that whole the voice thing doesn't happen to most men that I've talked to. I don't think I've ever heard a man say that. When I listened to her talk about her house yelling at her and telling her all the things she had to do, it made me sad. I thought, that's a horrible way to live.
And you can't sit down until it's done. You can't even relax.
So Yeshua said, this is all true. And this relates to me, this relates to the argument over I was born gay. When people say that, I'm like, that's fine. I won't argue with that. I'm not going to argue whether or not you were born gay because Yeshua said you must be born again. So it doesn't matter. Some of us have angry tendencies. Bill had to deal with that. That is a natural masculine thing, is to be pissed off for no good reason. It's just a man's thing. All right, we need to work on that. And the thing is, you acknowledged that and you worked on it. And you saw that you could get the victory over it. Yeshua says in verse 42, I thought this was really good. One thing is necessary. And some manuscripts say few things are necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion. This is crazy to tie this all back together. If you got your Strongs, if you look at the word portion, it's that word that I used earlier. It's crazy how this just fell all together, and I didn't realize how connected it was. It's the word meris, which is the root word of worry, which means to tear things into pieces. So Mary acknowledged that she had the same stuff that Martha did, but she chose, of all the things that were torn up in her head, she chose the good portion.
But it also wasn't at her house. Let's be clear.
It wasn't at her house. An anxious person,
Together.
Oh, did they?
I think so.
well, it says Mary welcomed him into her house. So she thought it was her house.
I'm thinking from another passage.
You may be right.
Because I was thinking that they and Lazarus all lived together.
I know they were in the same town. Yeah, you may be right. If you search for Martha, she's only mentioned in that passage and this passage, so we can probably confirm that if they live together. Well, if Lazarus lived there, Martha must have been keeping him straight. He didn't have the house wrecked when Yeshua came by. So the word portion is the word meris, which goes right back to the word anxious. An anxious person is being torn apart or choked. Mary recognized that we only have a limited amount of time in any given day, and we probably cannot do all the things that we would like to in any given day. She chose the good portion. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the other stuff will work out. This week, I was speaking with a man who has a wife who was just promoted into management. This woman is very detail-oriented. She's very reliable. She gets her stuff done, and she does it right. So you look at somebody, I think anybody that's worked in the corporate world can relate to this story, where you find someone who is just an incredible worker. You can hand them anything and they're going to get it done. They're going to do it exactly right. You promote that person into management. Good Lord, help us all, because the people that work for them are not them, right? Bill, I am sure that had to be some source of frustration. As a manager, I can relate. I would never do things the way you do them. We probably all thought that, anybody in leadership. Now she's responsible for a lot of people who are not her, people who are not anywhere near as driven as she is, and she is struggling. If she were them, they wouldn't need any motivation. They wouldn't need anyone to ask, is it done yet? How about now? And it is killing her. She missed service at her church Wednesday because she felt like she was too behind at work. Her husband scheduled a day off for them to go ride bikes together with friends a couple weeks ago. She took the day off. She didn't go ride bikes. She worked on catching up instead while she was on PTO. My coworker is telling me this, and my heart is breaking because the pressure is not coming from her boss, and it's not coming from her coworkers. Remember, I asked the question earlier, where does X come from? Martha is anxious and troubled about many things. She has missed time with the Lord. And when I say Martha, I'm talking about the lady from work. She's anxious and troubled about many things. She's missed time with the Lord, her husband, and her friends to do work that no one has threatened her with. Perhaps that wind and that pressure are coming from the adversary. A few years ago, I remember wanting to spend time with my wife. I went on an absolute tear. I did everything possible. Probably most men can relate to this. I did every possible chore I could think of around the house. I worked my butt off. I told my wife I really wanted her to be able to relax so that we could relax that evening. And when it got late, I invited her to come relax with me on the couch. She was busy doing laundry. And I said, do you need some help? Nope, I've got it. She finished the laundry. She found another chore to do. I told her, I said, I have done everything I could think of to free you up for the evening. And it hurt that I can run and gun all day long only to be told I'm too busy. And she said she couldn't relax until everything was done, which some of you have said you felt that. I said, tell me what everything is so it can be done. And she couldn't give me a list. And that night I went to bed without her. There will always be 5,000 things to do. Trust me, being by myself, I told Charlene this, being in a new home by myself, sometimes when I get off work, I am stuck. For 10 minutes, I just stand there and look at the house and pull out my phone and pull up Notepad, and I think, You know what? I've got about 2 hours that I can get stuff done. What are they? And try to dump them all down. What are the most important things I can do with the time that I have? This is a struggle for a lot of people. If there are 10 things that need to be done and they are all treated the same, someone is going to be hurt. I want to say that again. This is a struggle for a lot of people. If there are 10 things that need to be done and if they are all treated the same, somebody is going to be hurt. The days that my kids are with me, decorating the rooms can wait. If me and the kids are up watching a movie and snuggling together on the couch after eating ice cream, it is not going to hurt anybody if the ice cream bowls sit in the sink until the morning. It is best to spend time loving my children, and it is better to go to bed earlier and at a more consistent time than it is to stay up late doing chores that can be done in the morning. Yeshua said, seek first the kingdom. We have to prioritize. This was all based on this conversation I was having with my coworker and then reading this. He told Martha, one thing is necessary. And I'm going fast just to get through my notes because I know y'all got to go. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says there is a time for everything. I like, Shannon, what you said a couple weeks ago about wisdom. Wisdom is applied knowledge, right? I think that's how you put it. Wisdom is knowing when to work, when to rest, and when to worship. You can do a good thing at the wrong time, and it becomes a negative thing. All things are lawful. Not all things are expedient. Not all things are helpful. 1 Corinthians 10:24 says, let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor. When a person says, I'm going to put myself first and what other people want doesn't matter, that's not in alignment. What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Time is currency, and we only have limited amounts of it. Are the dishes more important than spending time with your loved ones? What message does it send the kids if you can't go ride bikes with them because you decided today was the day that you needed to arrange the garage when you spent all day yesterday watching football on TV? I'm saying this is a man thing. Yeshua rebuked the Pharisees because they paid tithes on their mint, their dill, and the cumin, but they neglected the weightier matters of the law. And it's funny, I wonder if anybody else knows it. When I think about that passage, I remember mint, dill, and cumin, but I can't remember what the weightier matters of the law are. Does anyone remember what the 3 words are? Not just me. Isn't that funny? Justice, mercy, and faithfulness. And I thought about this. I want to post this on Facebook or write this on the mirror. Martha was distracted by many things. Mary was devoted to one thing. The difference between distraction and devotion is priority. Yeah.
Well, here, in that parable, it says portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You repeat it out. And I like how Psalms 16:5 says it. The Lord is my chosen portion
Oh, okay.
and my cup. You hold my lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's interesting in that parable, really, that's really what it's about. What is your portion? Is it that kingdom mindset, or is it about looking busy and looking the part?
Yeah.
Because, there was another lady wanted to recruit another lady to help her clean. What's the reason behind that? Well, most of the time, it's like, they say, well, nobody does anything but me. I'm guilty of saying the same, right? Nobody has a schedule that I have, and I'm always being asked to do something, right? But, are you being kingdom mindful and choosing the portion if you're portraying that to other individuals? Are you truly loving your neighbor? Are you truly loving God? If you're basically accusing, throwing accusations at somebody who's like, it ain't gonna get done by itself. You're gonna get in here and do something, and literally, the rebuke. I mean, it's a minor parable. To me, it's like one of the most minor parables.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was a big enough deal that he uses it as an example to teach us. But like you said, and I've been guilty of that. I remember being gone back in the day, I'd go travel and I would like to get some little something to let the kids know that I thought about them while I was gone. And I remember running around in the store looking, and I couldn't find anything. And I just got sideswiped by the Holy Spirit saying, they want you, you fool. They don't want the gift. They want the giver. You know, and I went home empty-handed when, you know, probably one of the first times that I, you know, went a long major trip. And then I realized, you know, from that day forward, it was like, you know, we went over this years ago and I shared with you guys, they couldn't name the top 10 gifts that they had been given at Christmas, you know, when we were celebrating Christmas. But, you know, I pulled them in to, you know, ask them, and they came up with 5 or less than 5. But then I said, our kids are about experiences that they had with us. So what's your favorite trips? And then they went, boom, when we went here, when we did this, and we did this. And I was like, so what are we putting so much emphasis on what we're giving them versus what we do with it? And whereas what speaks volume to them and what their memories are around isn't by what's sitting in the closet or on the shelf collecting dust. It's about what we've done together as a family. And, you know, so I think that's great. You know, some of the examples that you gave was perfect, because we've all felt that way, and we're that way a lot of times, that we're like, it's my only day to do this and I've got to do it today. Well, it is also my only day that I really got to devote to my family.
That's right.
And I chose to do the yard because it's going to be there again tomorrow. Well, I think, my family's going to be there. Well, I got back to my busy schedule tomorrow too. And so it's like you're saying, having that healthy balance and how we weigh that out, and letting our mind and heart be at rest when things are still chaos around. And, you know, chaos will always be there,
That's right.
but your family won't. And that's exactly what we, you know, say. Sometimes it seems like chaos is in our house, but at the same time,
Sometimes.
I'm like, I won't always have to. So I'm gonna enjoy it while I can, you know, and because I'll miss this, even though I won't. You know, I might not admit to it as much because, you know, when I'm in the middle of it, I want to pull my hair out, you know, but the truth of the matter is, I'm glad we created a house and a home that our family, our kids want to bring their friends to, and they want to hang out with us. You know, maybe more things than us, but at least they're there.
I love y'all.
See you guys. Be blessed.
That ties right back into the very beginning. The way this started, the conversation was the guy interrupting Yeshua saying, tell my brother to give me half the stuff, you know, and yet he goes into this whole spiel about how it shouldn't be about stuff and it shouldn't be about doing, you know, it should be about, you know, we were, you know, throwing around the term last week, but the whole relationship thing, and it really does boil down to that. Anytime we've chosen the rearranging the garage over riding bikes, you never feel good about that decision
To
later.
rearrange the garage with you. Didn't think about that.
That sounds good in
Two birds with
theory.
one stone.
You got your
It makes
kids
a big
there?
mess, yeah.
Yeah.
You got your kids
Or
in
their
that?
kids
one?
are not gonna have a good memory from that.
No.
Well, I mean, y'all know that I work pretty much all the time and build these businesses. And Piper made the comment last week. She said, when daddy's off work, daddy's off work. She said, but whenever mommy's off work, mommy's working.
Remember the time with blood.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I was guilty of it too.
Yeah.
There's a broken voice. So.
Yeah.
Seemed like work.
I think that the key things that I heard, or that I still try to do, is when you have time with your family, make it intentional. You know, as much about as much as you can.
And I think that's what this is about. But Mark is trying to teach Martha, hey, those things can wait.
Yeah. You know, Martha was mad about that going into the Bible, you know. She didn't want to be called out
She's like, y'all
for.
made me look bad.
Exactly. Nobody would want that story told about
And let's be
them.
real, I don't know if you had if you made me an example of a clean house, I don't think I'd be too offended.
Well, there is that. There's that. And I wonder if that's what Martha would say. Well, everybody knows I had a clean house.
Cleanliness is
I stayed on top of things.
godliness, okay?
But telling the Son of God, tell her to get in here and help me. That's
You're the only one who can do it.
calm down, Martha. Take a chill, which doesn't go
You
over well.
calm the seas, you can make that woman actually do something.
That's what I was talking about.
Who would have been waiting on Yahusha, right?
He'd have been in there dying.
It's like, great, the Son of God is here. If you
Can't-
finally get her to do something, I'm
Can't sustain.
glad. Let's make it happen.
That is, you gotta hang that in my office. That's beautiful. All right, everybody, that was a great study. Thank y'all for hanging out. Thanks for the notes in the chat. You guys have a fantastic Sabbath. All right.